Thank you so much for coming today to the Muslimish conference. I don't know how many conferences we've had so far, but I've lost count. We've had a conference, at least one conference every year since 2013. Last year we've had 3 conferences. This year we're having 3 conferences in Boston, New York, and Detroit. And I'm going to be talking to you today about practical activism. How do we achieve something? How do we get something done? Or at least try to do that? I want to start by thanking New York organizers, Zarar and Nabila, and also Iman, actually from Boston, for coming here today. I really appreciate it. And I want to thank Hunter College for helping us get that space that to be able to speak and to record our talks, post it on social media, so more people will be able to see them. So I want to start by what is Muslimish? What is the group about? Muslimish is a group for people who are Muslim, who question the Quran and Hadith. They consider them people who consider them, they still identify as Muslim in one way or another, but they have questions or they have things that don't sit well with them that are in the actual Quran or Hadith, which is a crime in many countries that we grew up in. But here in the United States, we're able to discuss these thoughts and ideas freely, and we're taking advantage of that. It's also can be mish Muslim, which means not Muslim anymore, which I consider myself not Muslim anymore, except in certain conditions. If I'm going to be, if there's some racist person, for example, who have like anti-Muslim bigotry, then I'm Muslim, because that's one of the times that I can, I would find myself not defending Islam per se, because I don't, like to defend religions. I don't like to defend ideologies that I don't agree with. But I feel that there is a lot of anti-Muslim bigotry in this country, and that the Muslim community does face a lot of, challenges that I would stand with them in case, I like to use the example of if Trump was putting Muslims in concentration camp, then I'm Muslim. You got to take me with them, because I really, do belong with that group. Maybe not ideologically, but they are my people. So that's the 2 groups that form Muslimish. Who we are. We are a group of ex-Muslims and Muslims of various degrees of religiosity. People identify as Muslim in many ways that the majority of Muslims in the world would not agree with. Like they would call them atheists, or they would call them, different names. But they, as long as they consider themselves Muslim, even though if they don't agree with the Quran or Hadith, they are part of Muslimish. We come from diverse backgrounds, from atheist to agnostic to theist, ex-Muslims to cultural Muslim, to believing Muslim, and more. Every meeting we meet new people, and I'm sometimes surprised by how they see things or how they define things. But the shared character in the group is that people question special aspects in the Quran and Hadith. We criticize the ideas without criticizing the people that hold them. For no idea should be so sacred to be beyond human curiosity and discussion. I think we provide one of the few places, if not the only place, where you can actually discuss the tenets of Islam and specific verses of the Quran and specific hadiths among Muslims freely, and be able to share these ideas that are prohibited to be talked about. You cannot have these discussions in mosques. You could not have these discussions with your family. And for many people, it's a euphoric experience for them to meet someone else who comes from that shared background and shares these ideas or shares these criticisms that are held so sacred that you're not allowed to criticize. We can question religious beliefs without adopting discriminatory attitude towards our communities. We encourage skeptical thinking, but deplore all forms of bigotry, including racism, sexism, classism, anti-Semitism, and ageism. We think that no state should impose religious or irreligious beliefs. All citizens are entitled to exercise their free speech and live without fear of persecution or censorship. There are 13 countries in the world that punish criticism of Islam by death. And almost every single Muslim country has some sort of law that punishes criticism of religion, specifically Islam. This is something that I think is unique to the Islamic faith. I think not, really the Christian faith has gone past that through hundreds of years of reformation and kings wanting to get divorces and such things. But we, because of many reasons, we are still stuck with this Islam in its almost original form. Quran has not been edited like the Bible, which has been translated and retranslated hundreds of times, and now people don't even pay attention to it anymore. The churches now are very more or less, at least some churches are accepting of gay people, and that is something that is very hard to see in the Muslim community. So I think even though we are lagging behind some other religious groups, I think because of the internet revolution and communication and the ease of communicating scientific information, I think we can leap through all these years of progress that the Christian culture has, have been through. We have clear goals, and I like to talk about goals because I don't want to just talk in the abstract. This is what we want to achieve. This is what we're going to do. We want to create a space for discussion, which we already do. We already do that. We have spaces for discussions in 6 cities in the US and 1 in Canada. We have meetings in New York every 2 weeks, in other cities once a month. So we already create that space for if someone needs a space to discuss ideas, to speak, to say things that they can't say in their Muslim community, there is a space for them to do that. That's already being done. We want to foster a pluralist society. We want to foster a society where both people who identify as Muslim in one way or another and people who are ex-Muslim or don't believe in Islam anymore, have completely rejected religion, can work together to achieve common goals. So we can achieve the third goal, which is the most difficult one, which we really have not done anything yet to achieve, which is abolish blasphemy laws. I was talking to Wissam last night about trying to have some sort of roadmap towards achieving that goal, because that goal is daunting. And for many years within the group, we've had people who were actually against that goal because they feel it's too political, or they feel that it's going to take us into a more dangerous zone. But we are determined on achieving that goal. That's why really when the group started, that was the main goal, is to abolish blasphemy laws, because I felt as an Egyptian moving to New York that I have a unique freedom. I think most Americans don't realize how precious freedom of speech in America is. But if someone who grew up in Middle Earth, you move to America and you realize, oh my God, I have this new toy, and it's an awesome toy. It's freedom of speech. I can say what I want here, and I'm not going to go to jail for it. And no one is going to try to kill me for it. And if you grow up without that, and then you have it, you realize how precious it is. And I think most of the members of the group are first or second generation immigrants. And I think most of us recognize how precious the freedom of speech we have in America is. Activities, what do? We have speakers' corners in 6 cities. I say speakers' corners because that was as growing up as a child, I used to read about Speakers' Corner in Hyde Park in London, and that was for me a magical place, a place where people can go and they can say their opinion and people discuss different things. And when I went to London in 2014, I found that Speakers' Corner in Hyde Park has been hijacked by terrorists, Muslim terrorists, who really, you can't say your opinion. I was attacked physically there. And it reminded me how lucky we are in America, that we don't have these terrorist groups, really. that have taken over a lot of European capitals. So we are creating these groups, and we can meet freely without and there are groups in Europe. There's we are actually the first group when I was first started. There was nothing in North America, and I contacted CFI, and I contacted a group in London that was started by Mariam Namazi called the Council of Ex-Muslims of Britain, and she helped me and other groups start. But now we have 6 cities where we have meetings regularly, and if someone wants to meet, they can find us. They can find us on Meetup, and they can come to the meetings and have a discussion about things that don't sit well with them. Something that I didn't have when I was questioning Islam. Before I didn't just woke up one day and just say this is wrong. I spent 4 years thinking about this, and it was a very difficult time for me because there was nobody to talk to. And I feel that this is a great place. I hope it is. And at least that's my goal, is to have a place where people who have things that don't sit well with them, they can come and they can discuss these things with others. We're also building communities. We're connecting people. We are building lifetime friendships that people are, I see it over the years. We started in 2012, and we have a lot of people now who are friends for life, who have met each other, who didn't, were rejected by their families in some point, and some of them had really difficult circumstances that they grew up in, and family abuse and other things. And having this community and having friends and people to trust and people to be able to talk to, I think is valuable, and I think it's life-saving. We're also building alliances with other secular groups. It's very important for us to be, collaborative and work with other groups because we have common goals. I think it's important that we keep our meetings or our meetups for people from Muslim background only. I feel the reason for that is because people from Muslim background, when we sit together, you want to be able to criticize things that you grew up in without feeling that there are outside criticism. You're among your own people and you can discuss these things freely. It's a very difficult thing to criticize things that are sacred to your family and that are, you just grew up taught that you cannot say this is wrong. So you have to do it among people who come from the same background. I think that's important. But at the same time, we need to make alliances with other groups so we can try to achieve goals, try to get something done, not just sit together and feel good about ourselves. I mean, that's good, that's valuable. But we want to achieve something. We're going to want to get something done. We don't want to just be like another group that's touchy-feely and everybody feels good about themselves. We want to get something done. We want to change the world. So in order to do that, we have to work with other groups. We have to create alliances to get that done. We're creating online content. We're sharing that content on YouTube, on podcasts, on Facebook, on Instagram, on different platforms, so we can reach more people. People who can't be there in person, people who are in Muslim countries who are told often that they're the only one. Like, you think you're the only one? You think you're right and all wrong? Yeah, I'm right and you're all wrong. So, to tell them that there are other people out there who think the same thing, who think that there's something wrong with a man getting double the inheritance of a woman, or of a man having a man's testimony in court being worth double a woman's testimony, or with a man being allowed to beat his wife, or with a man who's supposedly the most honorable man in history marrying a 9-year-old girl, and speak about that and discuss it and discuss things that don't sit well with us, and be able to have these conversations, because these issues have real life consequences. Real life consequences. This is not just some theoretical discussion. There are people who are suffering because of these beliefs, and they have negative impact on people. So we need to be able to talk about the problems in order to fix them. It's not just like anyway, I think you get my point. Practical alliance. Muslims who want to reform Islam are treated as atheists. There are a lot of people in Muslim countries that if they criticize Islam in any way, they are put in jail or even though they consider themselves Muslim, even though, like I'll give you an example of a guy called Islam al-Bahiri in Egypt. He was put in jail for 3 years because he didn't criticize the Quran. He claims he's Muslim. He says everything, but he just said there are some things in the hadith that are crazy, which there are. And he was put in jail for 3 years for that. Not even saying he's an atheist. And there are many other writers who've been Hamad Abu Zaid. He was divorced. They forced him to be they separated him from his wife. He didn't divorce his wife. The court separated him from his wife because no Muslim woman should be married to a non-Muslim man. So the court separated him from his wife because they thought that his views that were not criticizing the Quran, not even criticizing the Quran, criticizing the Sunnah, were un-Islamic or atheist in nature. And there were other writers that were assassinated and still getting us in Egypt, in Tunisia, in Turkey, in many countries. Now that's not even counting a country like Saudi Arabia that puts people in jail for tweeting. And what's the name of the blogger? Raif Badawi. He's in jail for how many years now? They lash him. He gets lashed on Fridays in front of the mosque for tweeting about so. And most of these people claim to be Muslim or say that they're Muslim. So they are treated as atheists. They're de facto atheists, even though that they say they're Muslims. And there are non-Muslims, Muslims, who are discriminated against as Muslims. Like when I go through airport security, I'm not treated as an atheist. I'm treated as a Muslim. I'm still treated as Muslim here. My name is Ibrahim Abdallah. I'm treated as Muslim everywhere I go. And so we have a practical alliance here to be done. People who are Muslim but have certain views that don't fall within the rigid framework of traditional Islam, and people who are ex-Muslims, who are still being discriminated against as Muslims, we have a practical alliance that needs to be made. We have practical issues we're dealing with. Freedom of speech. Freedom of speech is something that in Muslim countries, you cannot say your opinion freely about Islam. You cannot criticize Islam in any way. And even people, when they come here, and I see this a lot in Muslimish conferences, because this, for me, in my mind, is a chance to talk about the issues directly. I feel sometimes that I'm one of the very few people who actually talks about the issues directly. And everybody else is just trying to say it nicely or talk around it, which it's a nice approach. But I feel that we need to address the issues head on in order to be able to fix them. Equality is a huge issue in the Muslim community. We have laws in most countries that give women half a man's inheritance. And for hundreds of years we've had that. I mean, think about the impact that has on women in Muslim communities. And really one of the reasons that made me start being an activist is that when I told my friends that I was going to give my daughter same inheritance as my son, I was attacked by my friends in Egypt. And that's really what led me to start speaking about this, because the backlash that I faced for not even saying I'm an atheist, for just saying that men or women should get equal inheritance was ridiculous. Anti-Muslim bigotry is real in America. I've seen it, I've witnessed it, I've experienced it. And just because I don't believe in Islam anymore doesn't mean that I don't face it. And so I think we need to be able to speak, and I think we have a lot of credibility as people who do not believe in Islam anymore to speak about that. And it's important for us to do that because this is our community, these are our people. We need to be able to provide the safety for them to be because if you're under attack, you're gonna hold on tighter to these beliefs, because if you feel that you're being attacked because of it, I know I, for one, when I moved here after 9/11, I felt I didn't used to pray in Egypt, and I started praying when I came to America because I felt that I'm gonna hold on tighter to these beliefs. It was really what happened was having a daughter and going to the Museum of Natural History every weekend. It just I couldn't defend that stuff anymore. It felt ridiculous after a while. Because once you have a true understanding of what evolution is, once you learn something, you can't unlearn it, really. We have an American advantage. And we need to use it. The European Court of Human Rights ruled in October 2018 that an Austrian woman's conviction for calling Muhammad a pedophile did not violate her freedom of speech. This is the European court. And I'm mentioning this because one of our last conferences last year in December in Detroit, we had a panel in the Muslimish conference that had 6 speakers sitting on it. And when Wissam asked the question about that issue, none of them thought that ruling was wrong. None of them thought that was anything, and that was in the Muslimish conference. So I need to talk about this because I need to correct a wrong here. I need to correct a wrong because that ruling is a violation of freedom of speech. And we have a unique opportunity here in the United States to be able to speak about these things. We also have a lower risk of terrorist attacks. I've witnessed this myself when I went to London, and I saw how Islamist groups are so strong there that you can't say your opinion freely, even in Speaker's Corner. In Speaker's goddamn corner. A place that is just created for having that. You cannot, I was attacked physically there. So I didn't leave, I stayed. The person who attacked me ran away. But the point is, there is a lot of consequences to having these discussions. In Europe, we have a much better chances here in the United States. Also, and I was talking again to Sam about this yesterday, U.S. influences the policy of many Muslim countries. That's just the fact of life. You know, we had Mubarak for 30 years, and then the U.S. told him to leave and he left. So we can influence policies in Muslim countries from here. And I'm not talking about the UN. I think the UN is a useless organization. I'm talking about the United States government. And I think we need to start lobbying, which we haven't done, but we need to start doing. But we need to start lobbying to have the United States government influence the policy of other Muslim countries, which they already do. We just want them to do it towards secular values, towards separation of church and state, towards freedom of speech, something that is a core tenet of what America is about, at least in my mind. American challenges. It's not all rosy. So American foreign policy typically supports moderate Islamists. For years, since Afghanistan in 1979, for some reason, the United States policy has been to support these people that are Islamists, starting Bin Laden. Bin Laden was getting a paycheck from the CIA because they think that it started as combating communism, but now they think they still support the Muslim Brotherhood in some ways. I think the Muslim Brotherhood is a terrorist organization, and all militant Muslim groups have some connection to the Brotherhood and have some roots in the Brotherhood. There's a lot of positive views about religion and religious ideology in America. I mean, Europe is, for all its faults, it's still a lot more secular than America. There's a lot of respect for religion here. I don't understand that. You have to put your hand on a book full of lies and swear to tell the truth. Anyway. There's also what I call liberals' low expectations. They're like we need these freedoms for us, but for these people over there, no, they don't need it right now. They're just brown people. They can't have that now, or that's not important for them. And there's also something we face here in Muslim, which is unwanted Christian interest. I get a lot of Christian groups that think that this is a group that changes Muslims to Christians, and I'm like, no, this is not what we do here. This is a group for people who want to discuss things that are wrong, not to just go to another thing that's also wrong. I would say even more wrong, but to actually be able to come up with solutions and come up with different alternatives that are really secular and create a better world, hopefully. Work in progress. We have meetups we want to have meetups in every major city in the U.S. We are in 6 cities now, but we will be, this is going to be done. It's going to be done. We're going to be in every major city in the US, because if you are in a big city and you want to speak about something, you need to be able to come and have this discussion, because this discussion cannot be had in mosques. It cannot be had in Muslim communities. You're going to face dire circumstances. Even if it's not physical attacks, it's going to be, there's economic consequences, there's many things that could happen wrong. Social issues. We want to have a majority women board. And the reason I say that is because I feel that the issues with Islam affect women the most. And I don't like, and I thank you, Iman, for coming here, because I didn't want this conference to be all men speaking and without any women. It'd be ridiculous. It's not Saudi Arabia. So we need to have a majority women board, and we're working towards that. We're getting closer to that goal now. But I feel that the board needs to be majority women because the ex-Muslim issues and the secular Muslim issues are women's issues in the first place. And I feel that we need to be able to enable people. Okay, thank you. I'm not going to take longer than that. Enable women to talk about these issues themselves. I want to take a back seat. I want to retire, really. I want to be another person who can just say their opinion freely. Because also, and there's a selfish reason here, is that I feel that people take my opinion highly, which I don't want that to happen. I just want to be another guy who can say their opinion freely. I don't want my opinion to have any more weight than anybody else. And in order to do that, I just have to take a back seat from leadership, and I want to do that. That's one of my personal goals. We want to create resources, referrals, and support. Resources for people. They need resources for work, for immigration issues, for housing, for therapy. We cannot be a group that has all these resources. We need to be able to refer to other groups and other organizations that can help our members. And that is part of our alliances and building these resources pool and building these connections. We need to do that. We want a staff member. We really want to do. We need to do that because we have to do screenings for new members. We have to actually talk to every new person who joins the group. So we need someone to help with that. We need someone to help with many things. So that's one of our goals. We need to create more educational and scientific content, especially in English and Arabic and French and Urdu and in many languages. We need to create that content and put it online for people to be able to access it. We want to create I added this yesterday, Osam. We need to create a roadmap to abolish blasphemy laws. And hopefully we will have a conference next year with other groups in order to come up with that roadmap. How are we going to get this done? It's a goal for us. We really don't know how we're going to get it done yet. We've worked on 2 other goals. I told you we have 3 goals: create a space for discussion, pluralist society, and abolish blasphemy laws. We are doing the first 2. The third, we are nowhere close to that. But we need to start working on it. We need to start doing something about that because in my mind, it's the most important goal. It's the most difficult goal, but it's the most important goal. And lobbying. I call it lobbying, not advocacy, because I'm not ashamed to say that word. I think we just need to call a spade a spade. We need to start lobbying to get that done. How can you help? I need something from you. I'm not just, I want actionable things. I want you to tell your Muslimish friends. If you know someone who is Muslimish, who questions the Quran, who questions the Sunnah, and I'm not saying your Muslim friend who drinks, because there's a lot of Muslims who drink, but they really they think they're doing something wrong. They're like, oh man, I'm sorry. No, I'm actually talking about someone who questions the tenets of Islam, who thinks that there's something wrong with a man having double a woman's inheritance, that the rule itself is wrong, that banning adoption is wrong, that a 50-year-old man marrying a 9-year-old girl should not be called the most honorable man on earth. Questions these things directly. I want you to share our online content to reach more people. I want you to connect us with other secular groups and organizations that have similar goals. And share actionable ideas. We don't have all the answers. The whole point of the group is to create a space where people can share their ideas so we can come up with the best ideas that work for us and take action, do something, not just speak about it. Thank you for coming. Please visit our website. And thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate it.